Greetings, everyone. This is the Halloween series of reviews. Since it is the Halloween season, it's time for sweets. Or in this case, Snek Sweets. And for those who may have forgotten, Snek Sweets are those reviews where I take off all prior restrictions of obscurity or indie devs and just play a game that I want to play. And today, in that Halloween spirit, I want to bring up my favorite genre of horror, gothic horror. No, not those kids who wear overly tight, black-colored, skinny jeans and hang out in Hot Topic. I mean gothic horror in its traditional sense. That idea that mankind itself is its own greatest monster, that the monster within need only a minor catalyst to even manifest, or that in equal measure we're capable of the heroism required to destroy such monsters. If these things sound familiar, maybe you're a fan of the long-running series Castlevania, and perhaps its famous director Koji Igarashi. If you are, you might be familiar with Bloodstained, Ritual of the Night. With Castlevania effectively wearing cement shoes after the underwhelming Lords of Shadow spin-off set, Iga took to heart the success of other gaming Kickstarters and put his experience in the field to meaningful use. Not only did he prove that Kickstarter games aren't all scams and or horrible wastes, but he proved it could be done in style, being incredibly receptive to fan criticism and reactions to early footage of the game. Not long before launch, we got an immensely entertaining trailer showing some of the overhauls the game's graphics engine had undergone, and it was not a waste. The game looks fantastic, and its attention to detail does it well. The main character, Miriam, has this sort of stained glass effect across her body due to a magic infusion process a bit too wordy to fit into a comfortable review, but it just looks amazing. It adds this sort of otherworldly quality to her, to say nothing of the monsters, who all look rad. Each effect, critter, background, and item has been given a good amount of care to each design, and that care shows, especially with some less than subtle nods to other vampire franchises, including basically having Joseph Joestar's breathing mask as an accessory, among others. And the music is haunting and beautiful, as to be expected in gothic horror, with shiver-inducing harmonies and blood-pumping battle anthems and boss themes. Heck, if you sit down next to one, Miriam will even play piano for you as you kick your feet up from a hard run of destroying the creatures of the night and enjoy some tunes. And yes, I am resisting as hard as I can to avoid making a stupid Symphony of the Night pun here. You're all welcome. And the sound effects are a joy. Every weapon, spell, and ability coded to its own pleasant sounds, and I never got tired of that delightful sound of a two-handed sword crashing down atop my demonic foes. That's the sound of victory. And the voice cast is all in. Everyone does great, but as a personal aside, I had kind of a geek-out/fanboy moment when I realized that the lone samurai Zangetsu is voiced by David Hayter. I legit unabashedly fanboyed when I realized it was his voice. I am not a proud man. So let's cover the story next. After the kickoff of the Industrial Revolution, the Alchemy Guild, fearing its waning relevance in an era of mechanization and growth, created the Shardbinders, humans artificially empowered using demonic crystals to give them supernatural abilities. As a means of scaring the people straight and keeping the guild well within power, they were to summon demons from hell as a scare tactic. And they succeeded. Way too well. Monsters began pouring out upon the earth, ultimately leading to the absolute destruction of the Alchemy Guild in a moment of rather dark irony. For this, the Shardbinders were meant to be purged, but due to falling into a strange, deep sleep for 10 years, Miriam was spared this fate. Upon awakening, she learns another binder, Jebel, has stolen an ancient magical tome named the Liber Logaeth, I think I'm saying that right, and plans to use it to wreak revenge on all the world, summoning a massive fortress and all the demonic inhabitants within. Having known Jebel before her coma, Miriam vows to put a stop to his mad ambitions, and thus we have a reason to storm an enormous castle. And like any good Metroidvania, there's tons of areas to explore, tons of monsters to crush, and hundreds of weapons to crush said monsters with. I found myself flipping between several depending on situation, but my favorite's definitely the devastating blows of the overhead swing of the Greatsword family. Though the side-slashing whips have their own appeal for obvious reasons, and even the one-handed swords had their utility against faster, smaller targets. You get immense customization between armors, accessories with various effects, and actually change your appearance, and the ability to grow your stats outside of traditional level ups, which do exist of course, by making foodstuffs at your crafting center. And I must admit, sheepishly, that I spend entirely too much time on this every time I see an opportunity to act on it. It's just really fun. It's a satisfying feeling to know that I can take time out from hunting down a mad mage and just enjoy some pizza and apple pie randomly, you know? The joys of exploring various hallways and finding boss encounters, subsequent power-ups, and various Easter eggs is the meat and potatoes of any Metroidvania game, and Bloodstained delivers in a truly big way. This is why I use the Fairy Familiar to assist, as it would help me find false walls in some places, and honestly, I just don't always have time to smash every single wall with my greatsword. You know, I gotta stay on the move so I can find things like the monstrous hairstylist, which is totally not a Sweeney Todd reference, honest. You know, so I can customize my hair and fashion sense and turn my skin blue if I am inclined. I've said it before, I'll say it again. I love character customization options, even if they are pretty silly. And once you meet a few specific NPCs, it becomes easy to do, to say nothing of your accessories changing your actual appearance, as mentioned before. There's also side quests galore, with various NPCs in your little hub town area who will give you different bounties on certain monsters, including a hilarious cameo from Iga himself. Some will grow foods from seeds, some will request mystery items in the form of miniature riddles, and some will help craft new weapons and armors, and yes, foodstuffs. You'll always have plenty to do, to and from the castle, not to mention between warp points. To say nothing of finding innocent victims inside the castle, then sending them out safely to expand your base of operations. Are there any complaints that I'd issue? Well, certainly. There were more than a small number of times I'd get a new ability and then just have no idea where I was supposed to proceed. I'd end up just finding my way by brute forcing every dead end I'd previously explored and lather, rinse, repeat for each new power-up. And second, the whole aiming Miriam's arm with the right stick probably looked good on paper, but ultimately ends up superfluous, seeing as how a lot of magic projectiles actually have bullet gravity and particular trajectory arcs, so this is less useful than it ends up sounding like. But all told, those are very minor complaints that ultimately resulted in my exploring and leveling up more, so in truth, very minor. All told, was it worth a Kickstarter campaign, an engine overhaul, several patches, and a bit of a wait? Yes, emphatically yes. I don't know if I've made it clear or not, but this game is absolutely amazing and deserves way more notoriety than it has. It is more than a worthy successor to Castlevania, and it's better than many of the later installments on top of that. And since the best Konami has yet offered us are compilations and Don't You Guys Have Phone games, it looks like Bloodstained may well fully replace the previous nostalgic brand name. And at this point, I'd be alright with that. You can and should get the game for yourself on Steam, PS4, Xbox One, and Nintendo Switch. This has been the Halloween Snek. If you liked what you saw today, there's a handy corresponding like button down below. And if you want more content just like this every week, there's the subscribe and bell icons too. If you want to finance my storming the Demon Lord's castle, you can even become a backer on my Subscribestar page, link in the description. Join us next week for Halloween proper, and an interactive haunted house attraction all its own, and I'll see you there.